so so Amy is working for Caritas Hong Kong, and
Yeah.
she was very long in the Central and Western District, I think, or in the Kennedy Town Center. You can tell us later, right?
All right.
That's where basically all our lives kind of met. Like I met Stephanie, and I met Amy, also maybe through those kind of community events, right? And so already at that time you were very active, and I think you were also part in this project that we have seen together with Caritas and Stephanie in Saingpon. No? But then basically just kind of 2 weeks ago or something, I heard about that Amy is now working on a very interesting project also, which I think started before COVID, but becomes particularly also relevant because of COVID in Sham.
All right.
And maybe we can just kind of give the word to you, and then maybe you can introduce to us, like maybe also a bit of your background and how you came to what you're doing, and if you don't mind, and then basically what you're doing at the moment in terms of Pro and all the findings there so far. Yeah.
Okay. Because sorry. Just a moment. Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Because a lot of my clients are here, so they are just keep going. So just one of my background is a social worker. So that's what Stephanie has always told, that we should work together, like working in multidisciplinary. So now I'm working in Sham, working in a project on mental wellness. So basically, it's something like this, but and actually I'm working in this part. So just like I'm doing some, this is a quite model used in the mental health aspect. However, I think for the, now we're talking on some kind of collaborations on space and also the mental wellness. So I just want to give a very brief introduction on what I'm working on. So our project is working on health promotion, and actually basically is the early identification of depression and anxiety in the area. So what we are concerning about, our project just started last 1.5 years before. So we try to narrow the health disparity, especially how the people, they especially under COVID-19, and also during this kind of situation in Hong Kong, and the society is quite stressful for many of our clients. So we try to work on health and how to have some programs and have some interventions, so that to help in the community to let them have some support. And also we can form some network, just like what Stephanie has said. And basically we are based in Sham, so we try to strengthen the community so that the mental well-being can be achieved. This is what we are doing, but anyway, it's not quite important. But anyway, this is the programs, and we are trying to engage as many as possible, and we try to form different small groups. This is what Stephanie have mentioned about, because we believe that the clients can help themselves. So we form a lot of like mutual aid supports, and also we try to let them go together, and then they can share the stress and empower themselves. So this is the possible clienteles, like women and people with disabilities, especially in Sham and Shakip May. It is one of the biggest community that the blind people come for some vocational training and also some supporting services in Shakipmay. So we see in Shamsherpo, this is one of our biggest clientele. And also we see families with carers. And also we can see we have the biggest church in Shamsherpo in Shakipmay, the St. Francis Church. So I think we are trying to engage as many different stakeholders throughout the processes. And also, of course, what I concern about the most is the people who live in the subdivided units, that because that Shamsherpo is one of the poorest area in Hong Kong. So we try to understand more about how they live and how they are suffering. And so I go into their situation, like through home visits and how they live in the area. So we work with different partners like the church and also different centers, and also we try to work with different NGOs together. So just a very quick preview of Shamsherpo. Shamsherpo is one of the density is very high in Shamsherpo, and this is the photos that we have a visit there, and it's a night market. The night market is not very well organized. However, the people, for example, we are on social security, they may gather some secondhand different materials or clothes or secondhand electrical appliances. They may go down after 9 o'clock in the street, so they can have some kind of stores, so they can make some exchange of materials, and also they can have some small business in the streets. So this is of course before COVID-19, right? But now I think they're still working on that, even during the COVID-19. So the density of Shamsherpo is very high. So this is one of the quite symbolic lane in Shamsherpo, in Kim Shin Lane. Originally, this building is one of the luxury building in Shamsherpo in the, I think, the 60s. However, now they become a lane full of subdivided units, like over 78%, because we are working with the Baptist University to take a survey in this lane. So over 78% of the apartments are becoming subdivided units. So the density and the population, when you compare to the original size, is like triple more than normally is expected. So it become a big village of subdivided units. And because down there you can see many restaurants. So these restaurants may cause some of the hygiene issues, like many rats, and also many people will come to enjoy their dinner, but after all, the rubbish are not properly cleared. And also, because out of the management of the whole site, so they may just drop all the rubbish in the middle of the lane. So it is quite interesting to see that when compared to Sai Pun, it is quite a well-organized area. However, in Shamsherpo, the population and the people, they are from all different places. Like maybe they're some of them are from mainland China. They just come for just 1 or 2 years, and maybe they are from different countries. Maybe they are seeking asylum seekers, so they may just can afford to live in the area, just like they can only pay a little rent. And also, I think this area, it is quite interesting for me, and especially for me, I've been working in Sai Pun for more than 10 years, but now I've got some comparison now. That the area is quite complicated and quite a lot of issues inside. So I think the space making would be a more, I need to just like work with you all together to see what we can do more to make the place better. So many small stores there, and it is quite interesting for me. I know it is one of the project in your assignment, right? So to have like stores and to have some, actually this is quite interesting in Sham, but it's still really it is quite energetic that you can still see very small business and the wholesale market and all this kind of stuff here. So I think it is quite symbolic for Sham too. And so we go back to the life of the people who live in Sham Nam Chuan Street sitting out area is one of the most popular area just because it's in between those town low and all the crowded buildings. However, they may feel it is not quite good to use this kind of space. Like these are the quotes from my clients. Like, so I just keep them secret without the names. So one of the sharing is that, oh, my mother-in-law was just sitting in the bench in this sitting out area, but after all, she got some flea bites, you know, or fleas, like it's very itchy. And after all, they have brought some fleas to their home, and it would be a disaster because all their beds and sofas and all the areas in the dark places in their rooms, so it will be full of fleas, and they bite you, and then they can't easily go away. So it is one of the hygiene issue in Sham Shui Po. Actually, we have a little survey on the fleas, rats, and cockroaches, mosquitoes, those kind of things. So we try to see the hygiene situation in Sham Shui Po. And our team is really surprised that Sham Shui Po, we've got, I think it's a community level of this kind of like insects and rats. So it's quite shocking for me because when you're living in a really small room, just guess in a subdivided unit in Hong Kong, just only less than 10 square meters per room. So one big, is not that big, one apartment, it will be divided into 4 to 7 rooms, so they can rent the small area. Just 4 people may live in one little room. So it's so horrible that when you see some rats. One of the stories that one of my clients, she just hang her handbag just next to the window with a hanger. And after all, she wants to get back the bag. And then when she wants to put things inside, and she discovered many baby mouses in the bag. Just the eyes are not properly open, just the white ones. But for the very traditional Chinese people, they may use those baby rats to soak in wine for medicine, medication, Chinese medicine. But it's so horrible for me to hear such kind of stories in Sham Shui Po. So the area is very dark in Sham Shui Po. So they mentioned about the Nam Chuan Street Park. The area is quite dark and dirty and feel really unsafe. That I saw, my client said that she saw many people gathering and gambling, and some of them may have some quite illegal things inside. So at night they may hear someone just screaming in the sitting out area. So I think in Sham Shui Po is quite a different story, right? It is quite complicated and very energetic, and also you can see the difference between Sai Pun and also in Sham Shui Po. Yeah, this is, I'm sorry, this is quite a little bit. This is the Sham Shui Po Park. Quite well built, and just like any other park in Hong Kong, it's quite nicely built. However, is for the parents, it is very far away from where they're living, and it's quite tiring for them to bring the kids walk along and to go to the park and enjoy those scenery. So it is quite a typical park in Hong Kong, but it is also quite a typical park that is quite far away from the main area they are living in. So why I am concerned about space, because for the grassroots, it is quite difficult for them to enjoy the private area. Like they're living only like 7 square meters. And then also they have 4 members in the family, and then they can't really use the space actually. And yesterday I've been talking to my client is that, when she's going to see the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist asks whether you sleep well or how many hours you stay on your bed and sleep, and because it's a symptoms for depression, right? Feel very tired and don't want to talk. And she said, oh, I stay on my bed nearly 24 hours because she eats, she sleeps, she watch TV, she do everything on her bed. So it is quite, I don't know, but it is quite humorous for her to answer those kind of questions asked by the psychiatrist. It is a proper question, yes. So what I really concerned about, or I just share my feelings that why the public space is important for this kind of family, because they don't have any other option. So maybe we have a taste of how they are living in. And this is the very old Tang Lo. And maybe this apartment is like they are divided into 7 rooms. So just when you go in, you can see very narrow corridors, and most of them, because they don't have enough space, and they'll put things outside their corridor and also putting things just all around. And this is, I think, for the subdivided units, they when you go upper, and the price for renting is with the lower prices because you need to walk a lot, right? And so the environment will be much worse. So this is, I think, is the 7th floor of the Tang Lo. Is like on the top is like the 9th floor. So, and then after the 9th floor, it is the rooftop. And they have a lot of argument inside. This is one of the writings. I can do some a bit translation because I think one of the residents living in the subdivided units, they always hear about the dripping of the pipes. So very noisy for him. And then how they can express themselves is to write the words just at the stairs, the public area of the stairs, and then just write on the wall, please don't drop those kind of, the pipes just keep closing. It's very, 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 very noisy for me, and then something like that. So when I am walking up these buildings with my team, and it is just like very shocking for me, especially it is very dark all around, just like this. It's kind of threatening, right? If you just make any noise, you dare not going out of this room, just like it's kind of threatening. And how stressful it would be for the people living in the area when they are writing things just at the stairs. So so throughout these years, I think it is quite shocking for me, even for me working for 10 more years, working for the grassroots people. But in Shamshapo is quite a big tension between different families who live in the same building. And also it's very stressful that they don't have the public area to go. And you can see those kind of management of the buildings are quite in a mess, kind of like the safety and also the maintenance of the buildings are not quite done properly. And this is a rooftop, and also they have some illegal building on the top too, and they put in lots of like rubbish up the rooftop, and then I don't know how they will get them out of the building because they don't have the proper management. So just some cases that on Sham. So why they think the outside places, what is the meaning of the outside places? One of my clients said, being outside, I can escape from my husband and son because they're always scolding on her. So for her, I think it's when going outside is to calm down. But during COVID-19, she can't even walk out. So because she wants to save the masks. So these kind of stories we always heard about. And they are fighting with their families. And only one good, I don't know if it is a good choice or not, is to go to the McDonald's. And they are clashing with each other, with their family members, especially under COVID-19, many of the people who are unemployed. So they argue a lot on everything in life. So so some of the people mentioned about the rooftop area, but it's quite dangerous for me to, because I'm doing on mental health, right? So for me, if they tell me that they are in the rooftop, and I'm a bit scared actually. However, they don't have any place to go, so the only place that she can only go is to the rooftop. So then she can cry and breathe again. So some of my clients may feel unsafe to live here because I don't even know who's living next to me, and also the out of maintenance to the streets, and sometimes the bad smells from the pipes in the kitchen and toilet. The smell is very, very strong that woke me up in midnight. So those kind of stories we heard about, just like in the story of Sham, in the brighter side that we can see the resilience. We have got many potentials that we can build, like actually we have some sub-teams to encourage in Kim Shin Lane. They are joining together and doing some cleaning for the building themselves, and they form mutual help groups to help each other to get a better place for making the hygiene situation better. And also we have some groups like we try to ventilate those kind of emotions, and also we try to bring them to very little area of the space. We enjoy the greenery, like in CUHK Park. So we try to engage them as many as possible. However, I think it's a big issue to deal with is the space, how the quality of space can be better and enhanced. And also we care about their living situation. And also I think in any aspect on like in planning or in urban or design and architecture, or like me in social work or any other aspect, most important, I think it is the care and the bonding between us, so that we can go in the community, that we can go together, then we can get a better life. So that's all for my sharing. Like actually we wish to promote the mental wellness for the grassroots in the community, and also to narrow the health disparity, like any possible ways to enhance their the service provisions also, yeah, to the community. And also I think some stories behind we are care about, like we respect every single people in the community. We want to show respect to their stories behind and how we can gather all those stories together. And also we want to strengthen our community's resilience, that especially we can live with our well-beings. Yeah, that's what I want to share. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
So thank you so much,
Yeah.
Amy.
Thank you.
So now you have basically been given two insights to Hong Kong, right? And in different ways and through different lenses. And now last time for our speakers from New York, I was kind of raising tons of questions, right, to kind of tease out all kind of information. Now it's on you, I would say. Yeah, just ask our two guests some questions. Is there anything that you want to know? I think it's great to have them here, and there's amazing insights that otherwise it's very difficult to get. But also, I think Stephanie also presented a very interesting work, which is quite related to what you do as a urban designer also, right? Even though her background is totally different. But also she, because of that, her particular background, she's also able to push it in other directions or link it with other things that we can learn from. So what's your feeling? Any response or questions? I don't know if Bianca, are you still around? Because maybe later, I don't know if you can also come back. Because I think it would be also interesting because you are probably one of the few who hasn't been much in or not in Hong Kong. I assume maybe you were. How it is to see those kind of insights into the site, or also for Xiaodong, who is from mainland China, but studies in Auckland. But as I'm not sure if they're at the moment listening and so on, maybe we can go with the others first. Any questions?
Actually, I have one question. It's about, I see the schedule in this afternoon. We should prepare some materials for the current situation in our site. And however, Shenzhen has a very large boundaries. So should we just concentrate on some of the open space like the linear park along the downtown street?
I would say that probably you should focus more for you guys on getting similar information you have already on Sham from New York, because that's where you can learn, I think, even more. However, and I would probably not do additional kind of mapping because you have already everything mapped out for a whole term, right? I think what maybe for the team members that you have that are not from Hong Kong, you can share this, explain to them and so on, and maybe they want to know something. I think you can more try to find kind of matching information from New York. But anyway, you have only one day for that, basically, right? Now, I would say in terms of the focus areas, because we will look at the kind of pandemic situation in then the second day, that probably you want to look at those areas that are the most kind of affected by the pandemic, right? And I believe that for both the Corona area as much as for Shamshupo, those areas that basically Amy is talking about, those streets. I think last time you showed me on a map like what's the main kind of study area, but it's basically in the core of Shamshupo, close to the Golden Mine, Golden Mall, the computer mall, right? Those kind of conditions of people living there in those subdivided flats, right? Because I believe that probably if we see the most extreme conditions, probably in terms of lack of public space and living conditions under COVID, is probably there, right? For the other situations, I mean, is similar, but just kind of a bit more comfortable, right? So maybe it makes sense to focus on those kind of particularly difficult situations to really see, like, if you plan for the future, the things already work well. I mean, we don't need to waste too much time on that, right? I think it makes more sense to focus maybe on where it needs help, you know. Having said that, I guess that what you could use now, seeing that Amy is still around here with us, is basically to see, even though today you might more work on the current condition in Shamshupa, but tomorrow or after, so you will look at the pandemic situation also. Maybe to ask all the things that you can ask from somebody who's frontline, right? And can offer you this kind of very unique perspective, no? Because even last term we didn't had this contact. I didn't know that Amy's working there, and yeah. So I'm quite.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I've got one question. So I just want to know for the people living in Shinshanpu area. So are they also working in this place, or they just sleeping in this area and do work in the other places?
Most of them work and work in the area, and because to lower the traveling fees, like however they prefer work around like Yao Chimong, or some of my clients may live they will work even in Kun Tong. However, majority of them working in the area around like the restaurants and especially in the in the food industry, and also for the hotels, maybe in Chim Sha Choi, I think some of my clients. So basically they work in the Kowloon area.
Okay, got it. So yeah, I just kind of interested in the daily life, people's daily life in this place, because yeah, so it's kind of like their jobs is really flexible, right?
Yeah. So because I'm working for the grassroots, so basically their job is quite, we've got the minimum wage. So their pay wage is just like more or less at the baseline, baseline in Hong Kong. So they work in restaurants, and they are cleaning streets, and also they work in, some of them work in the construction sites. So their income higher, yeah, but they're really a tough work. So yeah, basically, because some of them are from the families who are like, many of them are divorced, yeah, in my clientele. So yeah, so basically they work in those kind of industry.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. So for the construction work, they just move around, just to go to where they have the constructions. Yeah, so they may for Hong Kong. Yeah.
So so what about their children? The education for the children?
Yeah, the children, they most of their parents, they choose to live here because they want their children to study nearby. So maybe job location is one of the concern, but the priority is that the children's concern will be high, because they just want kids to study nearby. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just feel free to share. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Because I've been sharing this to other students, but they're social work students from Hong Kong U, but it is just okay that, because I think you guys like care about the situations of the people who live in an area. So I think it's quite important that we can share a lot on their lives. Yeah, and then to achieve what like Stephanie has mentioned about how we can go together and do some better space fits their needs. Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, yeah.
It might be relevant, but might not. But I'm a little bit curious about based on your work, do you have any idea about the sexual industry in this area?
Yes,
Because,
sure.
yeah, because when I was finding the apartment in the beginning, I was thinking about maybe I could, because now I'm living in Princess Edward area. So earlier I thought about maybe I can find like a sensory bowl, because it seems like it looks cheaper, and also I pretty like a Tanglo, but the agents told me I will be bothered by like a 一楼一凤, this kind of things. So earlier, so I'm wondering about, because earlier you mentioned like a 7th floor, how the people feel they live there. So I'm wondering, is that really like this kind of prostitute inside almost every building, or how can we understand this and connect this with the living environment? Yeah, I don't have any judgment to that, yeah, so I just wondering, and maybe that will help students to know much more faces of this area. Thank you.
Sham Chapel is very energetic, so they have different industries in here. So what you've mentioned is one of the industry, right? They may not locate in every Tanglo, but they some of the buildings they may rent the first or the second floor, the majority. Like when you see a pink light or some very unique decoration, like when you pray, like Chinese, we pray for the 土地, the land, the god for land. But if you can't find any fruits on top, then it is those kind of doing those kind of business.
I see.
Yeah, so they have some kind of signals. And also for the Sham Chapel, you see the foot and some of the foot massage. If you don't have the smiling face, you have the smiling face, then they are doing the industry on doing sex work and something like that. So for me, I think for some of the residents, if they're really living in the subdivided units, they may feel unsafe sometimes. However, they have their their norms that they go only to that floor, and then hopefully they may not go up there to seek for other things, right? And of course, some of my clients may mention when they are going down to that building, some of the people may look just like up and down of the woman, like because he's guessing whether she's working in that industry, but she's just only live there. But so they will define and they will see whether they are residents or just doing industry there. Yeah. So it's quite interesting that they have those kind of tolerance, and also they can, those kind of understandings is quite interesting in Sham Chapel too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I bump into a few. I sometimes go to the TheJournal in Sham Chapel, and sometimes I visit the subdivided units as a volunteer, not with Amy, with someone else, with some other organizations. I've a few times bumped into people who are looking for customers, who are trying to go. They actually look for there, so they don't want anyone
to discover they are,
So they normally won't disturb other people. So they just want to quickly go in and quickly go out and not disturb anyone else in the building, in the residential building, because there's a secret. But I think what Fan also brought out, it's there are actually also other types of industry that I think Amy mentioned to me privately, is that in the parks, the clients feel very unsafe because they find syringe, broken syringe everywhere or at some certain corners of the park. So they don't feel safe using that park because they don't know what would, if they would touch something that might be infectious. Yeah.
Especially for the kids, right? When they are quite curious, like, oh, what is that? And then maybe it is arranged, then maybe the parents may feel really unsafe to enjoy the area. Yeah. So they may prefer bringing them to really, really small park in the neighborhood. However, maybe it's the park like in Sayangkun, it's just like one slide and that's all. The park without any facilities, but only one slide. Yeah. So it is quite difficult for the parents. They can't even go to like the Namcheong Park. Yeah, because many I think it's quite an interesting issue how the people who are sleeping in the streets, they sleep in the park, and also how to make a balance, like other people who use the park to how to strike a balance and how to deal with those like drug users because they stay in the park. Of course, they have the right to stay. And I don't know whether it is quite a good question in Sham to show that it's quite a complexity to deal with different issues, how to strike a balance. Like, because I know the government, they try to just like washing all those people away, like you can't sleep there and you can't even stay there. But I don't think it's a way dealing with the grassroots people or with humanity. So it's still a question for me too. Yeah, but yeah, for me it's quite I feel that how the people feel unsafe, and also how we can care about the people who are more vulnerable than the rest of us. So how we can get them all in the community. Yeah. Hendrik is.
You mute yourself.
By purpose.
Oh yeah.
Do you think you already asked all the important questions? Because you know, this time you don't have my help, right? So you need to see, do you find out already everything that you have? I mean, you have a kind of key insiders, right? A perfect inside view into what's going on in the place. What will be the questions that you have to answer in your assignment? You think you find that easier on the web? Any other questions? Did you hear a lot about pandemic, like what happens in the place during the pandemic? That's basically what you have to find out, right? I mean, you have a fantastic opportunity to ask somebody who's basically working since months with people there. There's no question about this. You think you find that easy in the internet? Any question you want to ask?
Actually,
no?
I can leave my email to all. If you want to follow up any other questions, then you can email me. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe if students don't have a question, I think this is a really sad, right? Because I would say, like, I think there's a lot to additionally, which would be very interesting to know now with the pandemic, right? So, for example, we see Sham I don't know how many percentage, for example, in this particular industry that you were mentioning, right? This industry with the pandemic, from what do the people live, right? Because they cannot work in that industry, or if so, it's extremely dangerous, right? Second thing, we had a very good question of Xiaodong about where people work. but do they still work? Because what I understood from Amy talking with you last time, many people lost their jobs. They don't even know where to, and all those kind of small businesses, they might not even survive, right? So you're not interested in this? I think I would be interested. Maybe you still want to talk a little bit about that? Amy, can we still ask you maybe for 5 minutes about this? I need to move on also with another lecture, but can you still give us a little bit of a insight on those points?
You mean working or?
Basically the situation today with pandemic, like because the whole question of money, work, where do they get help from the government? How can they survive even? How do you work if you're in a small business that probably died? No tourists, nobody's coming. The other industries that probably entirely closed down because of, I think it might be quite interesting, right?
Yeah. Actually, I've mentioned about the night market. Actually, many of them are receiving Social Security. However, it is very hard to live if you just rely on the Social Security in Hong Kong. Like only, I think, especially for the elderly people, they may not apply the formal, we call it CSSA, the normal security. However, for the old people, they may receive another allowance, only about 3,558, something like that. Yeah. So only 3,000 something dollars, and the rent normally in Sham is like should be nearly $5,000 or above. So is we call it is because the rent is exceeding that kind of the CSSA level. Many of my clients are rejected because they're unemployed now, and so they can only apply for those Social Security. However, they're rejected because they are renting a flat. The rent is higher than the allowance, because the allowance only have like 1,800 something for each people to rent a place. For example, if two people, only like $3,000 for you to rent a place. However, it is quite impossible in Hong Kong. Like you're renting a subdivided units only for 7 square meters. It may cost nearly $5,000 Hong Kong dollars. And so they reject their application on the CSSA. So it's quite difficult for them. Of course, we have a lot of very contingency, like those kind of like Rainbow Fund or different fundings. They can support their life for just once. Yes, but however, they may do some small business like in the night market, and also you can see they are doing things like, but now it's quite a difficult time. So how they share food between each other, and we have some food support for them, and also I think they just work. Some of my clients told me that she can only work like, because when she was working in restaurants, now they can't even work. So they can only rely on some friends or relatives or to lend some money. So somehow they may do some mutual help things, like they help each other. Yeah, but in the night market, and they somehow exchange things. And now you can see in the corner of Sham Shui Po, many elderly people, they may sell things in a really low price, like $1 for a plate or a CD, or an used cup, something like that. You can see many different things. So they may earn some little money, yeah, in between that, but it's quite difficult for them at this period. Yeah, and some, but fortunately, many shops here, like some restaurants who are serving like vegetarian food, they may have free lunch or free dinner for them to get, and some may offer, they may deliver those masks and sanitizer and those kind of things, like they just do it voluntarily. So in Hong Kong, it's quite beautiful that we help each other, and especially in Sham I noticed there's many shops, they just do it on their own will, yeah. So they may help each other on their, yeah, they're helping each other on their own, yeah.
That's basically the civil society, right? It's not the government.
Not the government. Yeah,
definitely. It's a bit what we heard from Corona Plaza, right? That in New York, very similar, right? That much of the support is, and then also of course with the super high rents. Did you see people that became homeless?
Yeah. Because, yeah, because some of them are renting subdivided units originally. However, they can't pay the rent. So some of them, especially the men, one of our clients, he's working in a restaurant as a chef. However, after all, he was fired. And then because originally he lives in the hostel provided by the restaurant, but now he has nowhere to go and just go to the street. Yeah, some of my cases are, they can't pay, or even they can't work, and they lost the hostels, and also they lost where they can live with. So the number of people who go in the streets increases in Sham. It's quite obvious. And in McDonald's, there's quite a few days, I think they are closed. So originally they sleep in McDonald's. Now they can't even get in because of the COVID-19. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also another question, because we heard that basically much of this, basically why people still survive is probably because NGOs, church groups, and so on help people, right? How did this help work function under the COVID-19? Because it's also very risky, right? Because I mean, how can you go into, I mean, now maybe not so many, right? Of course, because also for social worker and so on, of course, high risk, right? So how did that work under this kind of crisis situation? Or did you use online means to communicate, or how did you manage to do your work through the last months?
Oh wow, it's quite a big challenge, because we need to talk with our clients to tell them how to use Zoom. And it's quite a big challenge for us. However, we still work on them through Zoom and with groups. And I think I can conclude in 3 aspects. First of all, we are doing some online things like stress management groups that because they're unemployed and then they are quite distressed at home. So we try to, like Deliveroo or some kind of food panda, like we pack all those materials, like we're doing horticultural therapeutic groups. Yeah, we try to wrap all things like the plants and also like rosemaries. It smells really good. And then we pack all those things, and mud, and also the vase and some kind of things, pack them in a bag, and then we just deliver down their buildings, because we can't walk up, because we don't know whether they have the building's situation. So we just pack all things up and then deliver to them, and then we go in Zoom, and then they try to plant and try to relax and doing those kind of activities to stay them alive. Yeah, and secondly, we have many volunteers, luckily, and we try to visit them. Also, we pack up all those necessities like rice and noodles and mask and sanitizer and everything they need, and canned food and vegetables, something like that. And then And also we have some covers for the drainage. And when you put them on, and then it will stop the smell going from those pipes. Yeah, so we give them, especially for the subdivided units. I can show you maybe just a moment.
So I think if you have such kind of expert witness, right?
Yes, something like this. Yeah, you can just put these things on top of the pipes and in those kind of holes, and then it can still, the water can go out, but the smell won't come out, just like a gate, right? So something like that. Yeah, technical. Yeah, and yeah, something like that. And we have some visits to them, and just down there, and we have very brief talk. Yeah, something like this. And also we have some engagement like outside, so we can still have some road shows. We will deliver some kind of materials, like, but some tips that we don't want to deliver masks in the streets because it's very dangerous. Everyone just come to me, oh, I want a mask, and then something like that during the roadshow, and then I think I will be torn apart. However, we have the strategy to just deliver the sanitizer, and then we leave some address and personal contacts under their agreement. So after all, we will make the home visit to them, and then so we try to find out, we try to see who's the people in need in those kind of road shows, and we do it in the Feng Shui Street, the playground, because many of the people who sleep in the playground. So we try to gather the people and try to mobilize our volunteers, and so to deliver those materials. Yeah.
So again, public space is important, right? You meet in that.
It's important. Yeah.
The second thing, how about indoor public spaces that were closed, like for example libraries, other spaces?
Yeah.
Is that an issue? Because
so,
and so on, that they all of a sudden don't have spaces where they usually could work, community centers and so on.
Wow, it's so, especially the children can't go to school, so the libraries are closed, and all our facilities like the community centers are closed. So what we can do is that we can only invite our clients to come to us sometimes by appointment, that when they're closed and all the parks are closed, and in Hong Kong, just like all the parks are just locked down, and then you can't get in. However, I do see some people get in, but anyway, it's still locked up. So we can feel that the people can only stay in their home. So that's why in my sharing, I can see why the public area is very important, because when it is locked down, I see in many other countries, they may allow the people to go in the street only like in limited hours. But in Hong Kong, is quite difficult. Like they can't even walk in the public area. Yeah. So in Hong Kong, I think it is quite an important. I think they have nowhere to go. So especially in Sham Shui Po, when they stay at home, they will. So we have a lot of home calls through the hotline. They told us about their mentally distressed, and they just trigger those kind of mental illnesses during the COVID-19, especially when they need to wear the mask to street, and then they need to be stopped to measure the temperature, and then some of the people may feel it is very they can't really get into the situation. Yeah, so many of our phone calls just keep going, and then so if the next time we can do it better, whether we can just open some of our public area, as long as we maintain its situation, or we just let them get in to enjoy for somehow and keep a social distance, rather than just lock them up all the time. Yeah.
It's I think interesting because, for example, in Taipei, because of the earthquakes, they opened because the danger of earthquakes, so you have to often escape to public spaces because otherwise you're killed, right? Maybe so. What they did in the past, that they opened certain kind of schoolyards and so on to become public spaces, because we have a lot of schools, for example, in the area, right? A lot of schoolyards. And in those areas, and then basically in those kind of crisis situations, you can go to those places, right? Why do they need to be kind of fenced off, right? So in this kind of very kind of packed areas, right? So that was a way like how they did. There was this in Taiwan, apart from the fact that people got masks and all public spaces were open, but it's kind of interesting, right? I have still, I know it's getting late and I need to also rush very soon to somewhere. One thing we haven't discussed at all is, I mean, one thing would be to see what is LCSD and the government authorities that are responsible for public space, what's their role in it, they are interested to be a stakeholder in kind of improving. But the other thing is also, how about the owners of those properties, right? Because people make a lot of money with renting out those places, right? So who are those people, and how can that happen? And basically, because there's an entire economy behind that, right? It's a subdivided flats, right? Because I assume that most people are not the owners of those places, right? Yeah. So is there anything that you guys know about who's actually owning those places?
For the subdivided units, now they are run by the agency. They have, because we after all these years, we may perceive it is quite a market which is with information who are trapped just within the agencies. Like the property agencies, they only give you one or two choice. Then the price will be like $6,000. Then you can't even compare, because most of the people who live in subdivided units, they are quite busy in working, and they may work one or two or three jobs every day. So they need to take care of kids. So they don't have time to make a comparison on those prices in subdivided units. And also it is quite a manipulating market that they can't even have choice, because those property agencies, they may own a lot of the buildings and also the subdivided units. So they can control the price easily, actually. And so they may, because it is on the need basis, like you need to rent, right? So you can't, I don't rent and then I have another choice. You can't even choose. So for them, it is quite manipulating, especially if I own an apartment. If I don't want to, I just want to earn money, and I will give the power of management to those kind of property agency. So just give them some return, and then I receive my rent every month. That's it. And so many of the tenants, they didn't see their real landlord actually. So they can only pay rent every month, and then after the contract, the rent will be increased, and that's it. And every time when the pipes are broken, the toilets are broken, and the aircon is falling off, and then no one will come to them, and they need to repair themselves. But long time ago, they actually have the right to ask the landlord to make those kind of repairs. But nowadays, they won't do any of these. And so the rent is manipulated by the agency properties, the property agencies, and also the maintenance of the flats are not quite probably done and fulfilled by the landlords. And you can't even say anything. because they may charge you extra cost if you just move anything. You just put a nail on the wall, and you may, because you have the deposits kept by the landlord, right? So when they discover that you have the nail on the wall, and then it's $500 each. Yeah, so maybe it is very unfair situation for the people. Like, of course, Sham is not only with the people who live in subdivided units. However, this area, the majority of the landlords, they prefer making these kind of subdivided units because the rent return would be higher. For example, if you rent the whole apartment in like $15,000, but if you divide it into 4 rooms and 5,000 each, and then you earn much more, right? So, but for our clients, they can't because they don't have the information to know, oh, can I share a flat with you? So we can pay, we can like co-living, well, live in like co-living style, but they don't have those kind of information, and they don't know whether they have this option. So actually the amount would be, they pay only can be $5,000, but they don't know whether they can choose any other way of living actually in Sham.
And you would think like for this kind of rent that you pay, you could expect a little bit of different management, right?
Yes, of course.
So because
the
management, because it looks like, oh, those people, they're dirty and they kind of mess up the places, but I think that would be the landlord's issue, right?
Yeah. However, I know some NGOs are dealing with those kind of co-housing projects. Yeah, so this is one of the options that we are trying in the civil society. We try to figure out what can we do more than just live in those kind of subdivided units. So yeah, maybe we can explore many other kinds, because Hong Kong is one of the cities with a very high rent, and the area that you can use is really small. Not only the area is small, the height is very short. we call in Sham also have not only subdivided units, they have those kind of spaceship like Tai Hong Chong, Hai Kong Chang. It's like a coffin.
Yeah, coffin home or
coffin room. Not only the size is small, but the height is smaller. Yeah, it's quite common in Sham too. Yeah.
Do they people, because you said you use Zoom and so on, do people have internet?
Oh, that's a big question too, because they don't have Wi-Fi, and sometimes they may rely on the public facilities. That's why I think it is very important to maintain those public spaces open, because they don't have Wi-Fi. They only rely on the mobile data. So we have quite a lot of effort to help them to get online. And also some of the people, they may ask us for whether you have the iPad or other facilities. They can make them enjoy their normal life easily.
Particularly also for kids, for the teaching, right? Because kids basically online.
For schools, they may have those kind of like the card, and also the like laptop or anything. The school can lend them. However, I think for our clients, some of the NGOs, some of our other teams, they may lend them the cards for them to enjoy the classes too. Yeah. But I think it is quite depends on how they handle. For different NGOs, they may handle this in different ways. So yeah, maybe it's quite, at this moment, some of the NGOs, they may help and facilitate those kind of issues like accessing Wi-Fi. And because some of the people, they can't access, so we just invite them to our center. But can only do it under 4 people at the very beginning, and then become 6 people, and then become 8 people, including me. Yes, and then because of the limitation to gather, so yeah, that's it. The problem is there. So that's why I think the public facilities, if they keep them open for the libraries and also the community centers, they provide the government Wi-Fi. I think it's very important for them to access information. Yeah, especially when they are unemployed. Many the news is very important to them because they can only receive information like oh, they send messages. For example, here we've got some funds for you to support like people who work in construction industry or people who work in the restaurants. And then it is quite important, especially in this crisis. And they need to get those information to help them like have some financial assistance. Yeah. So I can see it is quite a big issue for them during the COVID-19.
Because if we talk about those kind of inclusive infrastructure spaces, those things like library buildings, community centers, all these are very important places for civil society, right? And in Hong Kong, I mean, usually you have free internet there and so on. I mean, there are some those things are actually not so bad. But I think under such a kind of extreme situation, it's kind of sad because this supportive infrastructure is basically collapsing, right? It should be even stronger in that time, right? It should be basically the network that should support things, right? In crisis. I'm not blaming the government. Of course, it's very difficult what to do during a pandemic. I'm just thinking like, if you think about a resilient system, right? Even though I think Hong Kong officially does quite well with, we have no cases and or almost no cases and so on, but I think there's still improvements can be made for resilience to see like, okay, how can those kind of infrastructure, indoor, outdoor public space was, but with also institutions together and so on, basically help, because people are paid for those jobs, and I mean they're librarian and so on, and so they probably they want to help, right? It's just kind of they cannot, and so on. Okay, I think I need to move on to the next thing also, but and I think there would be also more things with Stephanie's talk also to talk about, but I think I know maybe it's easier to draw you in other ways again. So I think Amy, we don't see as often, right? So I would say I hope students. What do you think? Do you hear some kind of new things that are useful maybe for your study?
Yes, very useful.
Yeah, no? So again, I think we can see Zoom online, right? Now we can actually have a quite insightful specialist view, frontline, right? Even we don't visit the place, right? You have made field studies in Sham, but I doubt, me included, we know so many things about what's really going on there. And sometimes you see like, it's actually possible by connecting like with Joseph before, or now with Amy and Stephanie, that even we cannot go out, it doesn't mean we cannot learn about places, right? So again, I think we can get other information. It's not maybe the same, still we need to go out and so on, but in certain cases, this is kind of extremely valuable information that we can get, right? And it also shows that if you do your own research for your thesis and so on, like try to make those kind of connections, right? Now we are the teachers and so on, we are making those kind of connections, but on a master level, I think you should be the people to reach out to people. I mean, for this 3-day workshop, it's difficult, but for your thesis, right, you can do that, right? Okay, I know that Amy's clients are probably waiting for her. I think you have a kind of very important job to do, so we cannot take you too long away from that. And then also Stephanie, thanks for both of you for this very, at least for me, very useful insights, and also I think good contributions in view of what we can do online, and maybe also in terms of post and during COVID and post-COVID also. And now I would say we give a big round of applause for them and let them do their other things. I just want to just kind of 5 minutes to see what is happening in the afternoon for you guys, and so that then you can organize your own time, right? So Amy, we catch up later, and Stephanie, anyway, we see each other on Thursday again. And thanks so much for your inputs. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.